Let me tell you, there's nothing like a good NES game. Especially if that NES game has a murderous dog that's trying to kill you and your entire family. Well, gamers, you probably guessed it. As part of Spooktober, we're going to be making the murderous dog from duck season. Let's get started. First step, on the upper region of your sketchbook paper, go ahead and sketch out a oval shape for his head. Don't worry, you don't have to be neat because this is a rough sketch after all. After you're done with that, sketch a plus with the center line being in the middle and the eye line being in the upper part. So now that we got 4 pieces, we're going to go ahead and make the Gumdrop Nose in the middle, and we're going to go ahead and make his Gumdrop Eyes. So make sure to make any adjustments to fit the correct proportions of his eyes and nose. And down below, we're going to go ahead and make his muzzle, his snout, which is pretty much a heart upside down. And now we're going to go ahead and shape his cheekbones, kind of like Bonnie from the FNAF games, if you're familiar with that. And round out his top of his head. Don't worry, you can be as unneat as possible. And then we're going to go ahead and make his nice little happy mouth with a heart-shaped tongue in the middle. And round out his chin. Make sure you make his lower lip as well. And then down below, I just made the flap of his chin, if you will. This is a mask, so it's not really an actual dog head. And as you can see, I'm erasing that plus because I don't really need it anymore. Now I'm darkening in the middle part of his snout, and then making the little freckles, if you will. And then I'm going to make his creepy, menacing little pupils. And jutting outwards to kind of complete the rough sketch of the head, I'm going to make his really big, floppy dog ears. And I kind of played with the shape of how I wanted it. So you do see me going back and kind of changing it a little bit, which is fine. This is going to be a lead-only drawing, so no coloring or Sharpie. Now what I'm doing, before I go on to the rest of the body, I'm going to go ahead and detail and shade my dog mask. I'm going to darken in his mouth, I'm going to shade around his snout and his cheeks, and of course color in his eyes and also the ears. Now, one thing to note, I will be using a darker shade for the blood, which, if you're not familiar with the Duck Hunt game, there's a section in the game where he can come out and, possibly try to murder you, and by that point, he's already, covered in blood, so there is blood dripping from his costume, and you kind of want to capture that as well. Now, in this drawing, we're going to use a variety of lead shades, ranging from, lights to darks, so we're going to have a lot of shading values in here, a variety, and I'm going to use the darkest possible shade, or the second darkest shade in this drawing for the blood. The first darkest being probably for the mouth and other regions of shading for his costume. Because this is just a suit, he's not really an actual dog. And as you can see, I'm making some bags around his mask as well, or shadowing, considering that, costumes don't really have bags, but anyways, with the terrible analogies out of the way, I went ahead and darkened up his eyes, and then I went ahead and made a grading type of effect there, because it is a costume. So go ahead and make like a grid type of lining. Basically, I made some lines vertical, and then I went horizontal to give off that grid effect. And it does make the actual mask look like a mask from a costume. Now I'm going to shade around his mask, darken in some certain spots, and by the way, over time, some effects, like some shading, will kind of be a little bit smudge or wither away. When you get towards finishing the drawing, I would recommend going back and just, enhancing that, sharpening up a little bit so it doesn't look as smudged before, because lead will do that either by, just rubbing your hand on it accidentally, or it being overshadowed by other shading effects that you had. And I also colored the base of the mask with a just a light shade at first. And as you can see, you probably can't see too well with what I'm doing on the actual mask, but I'm making basically fur effects, basically like little furry effects on the mask. So that's what I do. I just make little wrinkly lines all around it. This is a very time-consuming drawing, but it is worth the effort because this is a pretty creepy drawing, especially for the month of Spooktober. There's also kind of a little bit of streams of blood coming from the left side, or the right side, sorry, of his muzzle. And I went back and darkened in my blood as well, and darkened the fur effects on the actual mask. Don't forget, right beside his left eye, there's a little dot or mole, if you will, so don't forget to add that. I'm going to shape in his nose, add some more shading. Of course, you can see me going back, like I said, and enhancing it because some of the lead has kind of like smudged away a little bit and needs to be enhanced a little bit more so it can stand out. And now I'm darkening the ears, and that's really important to actually like shade different parts of the drawing, so you know, so different parts don't look the same, because of course this drawing contains a lot of different sections that are shaded differently from others, and you kind of just want to keep it consistent, but also have a variety of shading values so it doesn't look bland. And I also made a little bit of dark wrinkles for his ears, and you want to be really dark with that because of course this is just a black section of the drawing. And I went ahead, took my eraser, and just kind of erased the edges around the actual ears to kind of make them a little smaller, a little bit more proportionate. Now, if you do have a Faber-Castell pencil set, which is basically a really good pencil set for shading, I would recommend using that instead of a mechanical pencil, but it does get the job done. But if you want to make your life a little bit easier, you could use that pencil set, but it's not really mandatory. I always say use, you know, the utensils that you are actually comfortable with. I'm adding some shading around his snout here and there, trying to give off that menacing dark look. Just a few more tweaks to his mask and we will be done with the head portion of this drawing. Now guys, I had some technical difficulties. I just found out that I deleted the next portion of the drawing where I made the torso and the majority of the right arm. So I really am sorry for the inconvenience, but I am going to go into detail with this, so again, sorry. So what I first did, I made a line going down from the right side of his cheek, a little above the jawline, and drooped down and made his shoulder. And then I pretty much, as I was making the arm, I also formed the chest. Now as you can see, I used a light base color for his body, and then around the mask part I darkened it, and I also made some streams of dark lines which resemble blood. And as you can see, as I'm going down, I'm just making his arm, his right arm, which is bent a little bit, and also you'll see in the middle there is a kind of a fold, which also the blood also deforms and kind of morphs with the actual suit as well. And there's also little patches and holes and kind of just flaps and wrinkles in his actual suit. Of course, this is a costume, like I said before. So what you want to do is darken around the mask, darken the little folds on his arms, and also add some dark shading around his arm, the outline of his arm, to make sure that the shade is consistent and you're not blending in with other parts, to give off that variety, like I said before, and not, you know, be really bland about it. Now I'm going to go ahead and make his arm, which is going to be in the, he's like in a stabbing motion, because this is a murderous dog from a Nintendo game after all, and we're going to go ahead and form his arm, and then make his 3 fingers. He only has a total of 4 fingers. His 3 fingers are going to be bent, and then his thumb is going to kind of be pressed up against the knife handle. So make 3 big chunky fingers. And then the knife handle, I kind of tested out different ways on how I wanted to place the thumb. So you kind of just have to play with it a little bit until you meet your liking. And then I made the nice blade. Make sure you kind of tip it off at the end to make a nice sharp point. And also his fingers are black for some reason. They're much more darker than the other parts of his suit. The mechanical pencil is really good for making sharp edges for knives, and also for the gritting effect that we did earlier with the eyes. And as you can see, I'm just going back and just enhancing the drawing, darkening my blood, because you want your blood to be the second most darkest thing there, so it can really pop out and be like, hey, that freak has a lot of blood on him. So yeah, this is a really fun but very time-consuming drawing, like I said. So I did take a couple of days on this, but it was really worth it because at the end you do really have a very menacing drawing. And it's quite refreshing because so far the Spooktober drawings have been really kind of cutesy little monsters. So it is refreshing to have this this menacing, murderous serial killer in this dog costume. And one more thing I forgot to add towards the end is his little tail. He does have a tail attached, and I just made just a little shape for his tail, and then I darken that in with a black shading. You can add that if you want, it doesn't really matter. And also add his fingers at the bottom on his right arm as well. So guys, once you have done that, you have a murderous dog from the game Duck Season, a really cool VR game which I think was made by the Corridor Digital team, and of course Stress Level 0 as well. But guys, that's pretty much it. Again, sorry for the inconveniences in the middle of the video. But with that being said, I hope you enjoy this month of Spooktober. And guys, I'll see you next time.
Enter Charlie. Charlie. A kid who just wants a candy, but apparently doesn't know how to open it and join in with the other children who are just getting